Hello and a warm welcome to round 3 of the 2020 Trans Am by Pirelli Esports Championship, which comes to you live from Daytona International Speedway. Hi everyone, I'm Jonathan Green, and so far we've traversed North America, starting in California at Laguna Seca. We then headed to the rolling hills of Georgia for round 2 and rode Atlanta, and now we're at the fabled Speedway that is Daytona, the home, of course, of the famous Rolex 24 Hours, the Daytona 500, and today Trans Am. And it's also been a home for us and our grand finale last time out in 2019. As you can see, it's a beautiful day here in Florida, and I'm joined by Ben Sissel. And Ben, we've got some exciting news as we head towards turn 3, as we head to round 3. We've got new drivers, we've got some interesting rules, and this fantastic circuit to look at.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. Torque Esports and UMG have given us a great format. We've got 2 feature races here. So we've got a 10-minute qualifying, then a 2-minute breaks for everybody to grid up. Then we do an 11-lap feature race 1. Then the first 10 of that feature race, we flip the grid basically, and then we start another 11-lap race. Damage is on in this game, and then Super Jens, our race director, will be enforcing no bump drafting. But Jonathan, tell us about some of the huge names that are with us today at Daytona.
Well, it doesn't get any better. We've got royalty in the house. In fact, I've dressed up in my bow tie because Tony Kanaan is on the circuit right now, a former winner of the Daytona 24 Hours. And in fact, we've got an interesting contrast because, as we know, Tony's been around for many years, and we're delighted to whip him away from IndyCar for his debut in Trans Am racing, and I hope he turns it into a reality because it's just an honor to have somebody with the capabilities and the history of the great Brazilian TK. Tony Kanaan will be driving his number 14 today. Look out for him in the all light blue. So TK's fans, there he is, and really looking forward to it. He says he's only been sim racing 5 weeks, but he's done the entire IndyCar series, and he has got a very good setup, and he certainly knows Daytona, having won the 24 Hours. We've also got a young 20-year-old who became the youngest entry into the Daytona race, the 24-hour race, that is, and he is Devlin DeFrancesco of Canada. I know Devlin. I've watched him race both at Macau and the Toyota Racing Series, and I'm delighted to have him and his brother, Lachlan, who join Trans Am as well. So Ben, those are the 2 most exciting ones for me, but there are others as well.
Oh yeah, we've got Boris Said. We were just riding along with Boris Said, who's, you know, kind of like the road racing go-to guy for almost every series, but he's raced here in this series, I think actually with Dale Earnhardt Jr. At the 24 Hours of Daytona. And then some of the other ones, well, we're talking about, like, this is our 3rd round now, so we're into the points, and we were watching the qualifying from earlier, the testing. Now we're on qualifying, but we've got Tyler Cassera way up at the top. Cameron Lawrence is up at the top of the points. It's really fun, like you said, to see Tony Kanaan here, but some of the ones that I think we need to watch out for are Edward Savagian, and then Ernie Francis Jr., our 6-time champion in Trans Am, is here, and he considers this to be one of his home tracks, being from South Florida.
Yeah, no question about it. Ernie Francis always goes well when he races in Florida because he's from here, of course. He is our 6-time champion. And what's interesting is he sits 3rd in the championship at the moment on 100 points. Now, by his own admittance, he's not a big gamer. He likes to do the real thing more. And he's up against Tyler Cassera and Josh Hurley, who've been the stars of our championship so far. But watch out for Ernie Francis Jr. He's due a win. He likes the banking of Daytona, and he likes this track. So watch out for him. But I'm also delighted. The other big news story is we've got Mark Miller back, our current TA2 champion. And Mark Miller, of course, is no slouch, both on a sim and in the real world. Now, he's getting up to speed. This is his first race here in our sim championship, but already just looking at the practice times from earlier, you can count on Mark Miller to make an appearance at some time. And likewise, you've got the likes of Nick Racino, 5th in the championship at the moment. Josh Hurley leads the championship at the moment with 117 points. Tyler Cassera is on 110. So it's tight at the top with Ernie Francis 3rd. Cameron Lawrence, another 2-time Trans Am champion, in 4th position. Nick Racino, JP Southern, another one of the youngsters. And what I'm really liking Ben, is just how many single-seater experts we've got, both experienced and youngsters. I mean, you mentioned Tony Kanaan, but what about JP Southern? We've also got the two DeFrancescos, both Devlin and Lachlan, who are champion karters in their day. Lachlan's still only 17, but in Devlin's case, he's already in the FIA Formula 3 Championship, or he was going to be starting it this season. He races for Trident. He raced there last year, but he is on his way towards Formula 1, and he's got all the ability. And it's great to see him here in Trans Am, see how he gets on.
It sure is. And you know, speaking of Formula 1, we have some Formula 1 royalty here too. Can you tell us about Sebastian Montoya?
Yes, lest we forget, we have another youngster here who I met, funnily enough, with Juan Pablo, his father, at Indy this time last year. He's just 15 years of age. He's about to enter Formula 4 in Italy, so he's starting right at the bottom. But this is his first, and the Formula 4 will be his first car race. So this sim racing is getting him warmed up, but we're delighted to welcome a Montoya, and certainly Juan Pablo, no slouch around the Daytona circuit, especially in the 24 hours. I'm sure he'll be watching on. I think his father was racing today. Certainly Devlin was racing today in the race. He got a 4th place in the race. Ooh, that was a bit of a nudge there by the number 3. And they were, it's been, that's Hurley getting hit there, or doing the hitting, I should say, on Sebastian Montoya. There he is in the red and black. But yeah, just 15 years of age and looking to make a name for himself. Never easy when you have a famous name and a famous father. But then again, you've got a question to ask, you can always ask Juan Pablo. And he was showing him off effectively, or showing him the scene at Indy last year and looking for drives. And it looks as though Sebastian is on his way. In fact, he's driving for the best team in Europe, Prima, which is the team, of course, that Mick Schumacher races for in Formula 2. So he's in good hands. And I don't know how good a sim racer he is, but we're about to find out.
Nice. Jonathan, I want to draw everybody's attention to the leaderboard right now. We've got Ernie Francis Jr. at the top. He does consider this in Sebring his home tracks, being from South Florida, but then Casera, Savajan, Dylan Archer, Hurley, Miller. There aren't really many surprises in the top 10. I'm glad to see Tony Kanaan in the top 10, but look at the time separating them. And this qualifier, I think, is super important, because they start the race at the Daytona Tri-Oval, and then they go into the narrowest part of the racetrack into turn 1 and 2. So starting up front really gives a huge advantage here at Daytona.
Yeah, there's no question about it. We just saw one of the most integral parts of this circuit. Obviously, the banking, 31 degrees at its highest point, is fascinating to watch them, especially when they do get a draft. And I was asking some of the drivers this morning in the drivers' briefing how good the draft was, and you've got to be close. You've got to be like you are watching right now. You've got to be tucked up right behind the guy, but you can get maybe a 10th, maybe 2/10 of a draft to get past the guy who is ahead of you. So watch out for that. But the bus stop and this turn here, turn 1, are the crucial corners, I think, because that's where the shenanigans go on, both in the real world and in sim racing. But yeah, you're right. This turn 1 is tricky because it's tight, especially at the start from a standing start. We usually do rolling starts. That's what we would do in normal Trans Am conditions, but we decided to do standing start. So it's going to be an interesting start to this one for sure. We hope they all get through the horseshoe just behind you there. You can see looking down on it and into the infield without too much trouble. But then again, these guys, it's round 3. The points are going on the board. There's some 20,000 up for grabs, and the Trigon Trophy. And that, of course, is our treasured trophy, Ben.
Yeah, Crystal Sensations makes such a great trophy for this. And one thing that we're seeing, Jonathan, if you look at the leaderboard right now, between the top 28, there's 3 seconds. Such an improvement in the sim racing that we've seen from all of the drivers. It's really fun as we come to about a minute left in qualifying to see how seriously they're taking it. You know, we've always talked about the camaraderie in the Trans Am paddock is like none other. It's one of the best places to be, just from a spirit standpoint. Everybody are friends, everybody helps each other out. And now we're seeing this in the sim world too, because we're privy to some of these Discord and text exchanges between our drivers, and they are having a blast doing this.
Yeah, Sebastian going third quickest with less than a minute to go. Here comes Ernie Francis Jr. Rydquist pops up with a 1:44.4. We're really hotting it up now in the last 30 seconds. We're watching Kanaan. He's got 2 cars in front of him. TK is on track and looking for a Daytona result. He's not had the best of luck in the IndyCar, but we know TK, I did some research on TK. He's actually done 2 stock car races in Brazil a few years ago, and I asked him about it this morning. And he's also got one heck of a rig. He's got all the gear, but he says he hasn't got the talent. I don't believe that for a second, and he's already proving it because he's right up there. Also impressed with Vaccaro, top 10 for Kent Vaccaro, the Formula 3 driver, another single-seater youngster. Tony getting a little bit of oversteer. Ooh, there's all sorts of drama going on in the final seconds. Checkered flag is out, and at the moment, a 1:44.3 from Casera is the fastest time. Will anybody beat it on this final lap? Here comes TK to finish his final qualifying lap. But at the moment, the front row is Casera and Francis, Rydquist and Hurley. All of the top men from the previous rounds are at the sharp end. Francis goes quicker. And that's a 1:44.313 from Ernie Francis Jr. And the 22-year-old from Florida does it again. But will anybody stop him? In comes Francis. He's played his cards, but is anybody going to go quicker? What a qualifying session, Ben. And Francis saved his powder to the last moment.
Yeah, you know, he's one of the smartest drivers I've ever seen in any series, and he doesn't show anything until he really has to. And here he goes. This is the fastest time I've seen any of these drivers do in any of our practices or qualifying here at Daytona.
Yeah, and pretty impressive. The top 7, all Trans Am drivers, and also great to have Mark Miller on board. And he has popped in a top 10 qualifier in his first race. And look at Tony Kanaan just out of the top 10. Devlin DeFrancesco is in 12th place, and Southern goes into the top 10, improving his time. Miller improves as well. Miller up to 7th with a 44.7. And how about this, Ben? The top 9 all under 1:45.
Wow, that is crazy. This is going to be a great start to our race. Like you said, it's a standing start, and it's going to be all about turn 1 and turn 2 because it gets pretty narrow through the International Horseshoe 4, 5, and 6. And then it starts to spread out once they all get on the oval. But Jonathan, I am super excited that we're here at Daytona with the Trans Am Series, and we've got special guests all around.
Yeah, and John Claggett has been telling me all week how many people have literally been knocking on the door to try and get onto the entry list. And as you can see, it's packed. And it's amazing when you think about Scott Lagasse Jr. Look at that, down in 23rd, one of our top guys. And he's struggling. He's not a sim man by any means, but it just shows you how tough the competition is here. But I think we're on for a rip-roarer here. Beautiful day here in Daytona. And as you can see, we're getting ready, but it's Ernie Francis Jr. who takes the pole with a 1:44.3 and nothing in it because Casera's right there, 1:44.399. Rydquist, Hurley, Sebastian, Racino, Miller, Archer, Lawrence, Southern, JP Southern in 10th, then Vaccaro, Tony Kanaan 12th, brothers in arms, the Canadians, Devlin in 13th, and Lachlan, his younger brother, right behind him. That is going to be a rivalry and a half. Eben with weight on. We'll talk about the penalties in a moment. Good to have Lawless Allen back on board. He is in 16th place. And then it's Thomas Merrill. Interesting, Ben. Merrill is 17th. He's the man who won this race last year.
Sure did. He won the TA2 race last year. He had a really good showing all race long. And I'm really surprised to see him way back in 17th because he's one of our larger talents in the Trans Am Series.
Yeah, Boris said has got 160 kilos and it's showing right at the back, Boris, 148.6. And I expect him to come through. But if he can have a clean race, he'll lose some of that weight. But it just shows you how much that does weigh. Super Yen's getting very healthy with the points, handing out the penalties before the race. But rules are rules. And there's a few rules they need to be aware of for this race too. They don't want you to cut the corners. They don't want you to go over the bollards, especially at the bus stop. And also if you're lapping track, doing laps around lap traffic, they want the lap traffic to stay high and wide and keep out of the way. That's the idea. But let's hope we get a clean race, but really looking forward to this one. And great to see a mix of new drivers coming in, and we'll see what our champion Mark Miller can do. Incidentally, Tony Kanaan Tony Kanaan will be on the field, and as you can see, the grid is forming up. We'll take a short break. Well, we don't need to take a break because we're already away, and it's Casera who leads them. We went straight to the race, but that's fine because Casera leads them across the strip. Here at Daytona, round 3, race 1. Into the first turn we go. Rydquist has got away well. He's on the inside. Casera leads them through. Everybody gingerly taking their time. It's Casera, Francis, Rydquist, Hurley, Racino, Miller, Sebastian, DeFrancesco, Archer, Vaccaro, Kanaan. So everybody filing through pretty much where they start. Miller's got a place. He's up to 5th. He got ahead of Racino at the start, but it's a good, clean start from Casera. Little bit of confusion at the front there, but it doesn't matter. Rydquist in the all-yellow in 3rd position as they head towards the banking for the first time. This an 11-lap race, and as Ben explained, we will have a second race with a reverse top 10, but a good, clean start, Ben.
Yeah, really good, clean start. I'm keeping my eye right now on Josh Hurley, who always seems to be really fast. He's in 4th position as they come up turn 6 and get onto the apron. There's quite an adjustment to the cars as they get up on this banking, and we're going to see who's the fastest as they can come down and get a draft. Not a bump draft. They're not allowed bump drafting, but who can get up close to these guys as they go into this really hard braking zone into the first bus stop, and tires are not quite up to temperature yet, Jonathan.
Well, if anybody knows how to ride the banking, it's Tony Kanaan. Almost 30 years in IndyCar racing. He is a phenomenon, a winner of the Indy 500 and a winner here at the Daytona 24 Hours of the Rolex 24 back in 2015. And he's driven to 3rd place. He's done about 8 different runs at the 24 Hours. And so TK knows this track like the back of his hand and certainly knows how to ride the banks. There's Ernie Francis Jr., currently in 2nd place, the Floridian. And he's about 0.7 off Casera, who is really stretching that lead early on, and that's a smart move. Hurley moves up to 3rd place. Miller now 4th. Miller takes Racino and Rydquist, and Mark Miller, a sim expert, does a lot of coaching and teaching on sims. He's been out of the championship because he races, I think he races on another platform, and he was trying to rejig his gear. He was having problems, I think you were saying, Ben, with his pedals.
Yeah, he said today on Facebook that he was having trouble with his brake pedals. As it showed there going into turn 1, he went wide into turn 1, but it looks like he's back on the pace in his Procurate Corvette with us here at Trans Am.
God, look how close this racing is. It's ducking and diving here on the inside. What a turnaround. That's somebody getting nerfed out of the way, but it's getting dramatic out there, that's for sure. And we've had a big off there, and I think one of the cars involved was Cameron Parsons. We'll soon find out. Let's see who else is stuck. There's Vaccaro, Kent Vaccaro, as we look at Miller in the number 40. Mark Miller, winner in a Dodge this time last year for Prefix. And now Mark Miller on his way here, looking for his next scalp, so to speak. And the next man up is Rydquist through the bus stop. He's very close now, Mark Miller, and he'll want to get up onto the banking and get a slipstream if he can. In fact, he's already alongside as they come along the banking. This is what we want out of Daytona, Ben. What a shot that is as Miller drives further forward.
Oh, yeah, this is so much fun to watch. Our TA2 champion right here, Mark Miller, coming down into the Tri-Oval at Daytona with Carl Rydquist, our West Coast guy. And I want to point out, our top 7 starting out are all Trans Am drivers. So we've got some talent here in Trans Am. We've got some great guests with us who've got great talent, as we see Tony Kanaan in 12th, just passed for 11th place. But our guys have some huge talent, and now they are loving the sim racing.
Well, and it's interesting. This sim racing is becoming a reality in some ways. We got rumor that Archer is actually actively seeking a proper drive in the Trans Am Series. And if that were the case, then we would have another Archer racing Trans Am. We've already had 2.
Yeah, that would be so great if Tommy and Bobby Archer, his dad and his uncle, could get him a ride in TA2 as he follows along with Edward Savagian and the Big Machine Vodka. Edward is somewhat new to the TA2 series, and Dylan is following closely behind him. But these guys, we've seen some huge talent in them in this sim racing, but also on the track. As Edward, I think, is in the top 5 in points right now as he shoves somebody into the wall.
Yeah, that was a big off, and I think that could be Rydquist has been turned around. Yeah, Rydquist dropping down the leaderboard, so that's a real shame. Carl Rydquist will be very upset with that, I'm sure, as we go back to the banking, all going on. Merrill now up to a top 10 position. Kanaan's dropped down to 12th. He got some problems, and he's now battling with Borders, who's just got ahead of Southern. But it's still Casera by half a second. Francis Jr. in second. Hurley, the championship leader, in third. Racino fourth. Miller still fifth. And now Lachlan DeFrancesco, the young 17-year-old Carter, national SK USA champion. It's coming through, and he's also ahead of his brother. And that's probably the most important part for him.
Yeah, look at this as we go in right across the start-finish line. We had Edward Savajian really drafting on Archer. Now, can these three cars come into turn one cleanly, Jonathan?
Oh, it's tight. And just getting hung out to dry there. There's plenty of room, thankfully, on the outside there. But you lose time, and that's exactly what happened to Lachlan DeFrancesco there. But he's coming back at the horseshoe. What great racing. Here we go. The 23 of the youngster, just 17 years of age, from Toronto, Canada. And now we go on board with him as he chases down the Big Machine vodka car, the old bright red car. And he's trying every which way on the 38. But Edward Savajian of Dallas, Texas, our TA2 man, holding him off well. Great battle between them. And as you mentioned, bump drafting, if you're not aware of what that is, sometimes you'll see it in NASCAR as well, where they use a stock car to get a draft, and you effectively push the car in front along. Well, it won't work in the game, and it basically causes crashes, so it's basically been counted as a no-no. And so you won't see any bump drafting, but you could see drafting for sure, because you can get the slipstream, certainly around turn 3 and 4. And into the bus stop we go. Those are the bollards we were talking about. You can't touch those. You don't get a penalty, but you can certainly upset the car. And if you keep doing it aggressively and consistently, our race director will jump in and add some penalties at the end of the races. The penalties, generally speaking, are added at the end, and it usually comes in the form of a weight penalty for the following race.
Look at this three, Jonathan. No surprise. Tyler Casera, Ernie Francis Jr., and Josh Hurley. And look at how close they are as they come down into turn one.
Yeah, and look at them all setting their fastest laps in that previous race. Casera going quickest. Ernie Francis Jr., everybody upping the pace now. This is getting into a real doozy. Here's Thomas Merrill, winner here in 2019. And moving up to 8th position, and as you can see, he's all over the back of Lachlan DeFrancesco. In fact, at the horseshoe, he tries to go round the outside. Lachlan defends, but Thomas Merrill, no slouch here at Daytona, and the 81 looking to move up the board and looking to get into a top 7 position. Keeping an eye on Devlin DeFrancesco, another new star. He's done in 19th position. I think he's got some damage. Rydquist is all the way down to 22nd now. And sadly, Tony Kanaan is also struggling down in 24th. But I'm sure TK will make a comeback in race 2 as we go back with Lawrence now for the three-dimensional services. Ooh, a little bit of an aggressive move by Cameron Lawrence. And Jens, our race director, looks as though he's caught that one. Well, we'll have to see if there's any problems. Super Jens will be on it, I'm sure.
Yeah, Cameron Lawrence has been great in this series, and he won our last race at Road Atlanta. And he's not from Florida, but he lives in Florida now, Windermere, Florida, just down the road from Daytona. But he's always a great. But look at this. We're on board now with Josh Hurley coming around this banking in 3rd place, and he's trying desperately to move his way up to 1st.
Well, he's trying to get past Ernie, and he doesn't want to go too high onto the banking because the race line is definitely down low. But he's not really finding it easy. Now he's got a bit of a stretch. He comes alongside Ernie Francis. This 4th position in the race. And Hurley, as they cross the strip, takes 2nd place away from Ernie Francis Jr. And so now the battle is on into turn 1. Back comes Ernie Francis on the inside. Great racing between the pair of them. And Francis says, no, I will not let you through. I want this as just as bad as you do. And as these two fight, Casera is just edging away from both of them. Great racing.
Oh, it's always great racing. And, you know, we keep talking about Ernie Francis saying he's not a sim racer. But I know since we talked to him last time, he's one of the hardest working guys I've ever seen in the paddock. He takes this very seriously. So I would guess that he's been spending a 40-hour week just practicing on the sim because he is a racer through and through, super competitive. And like I said, he's one of the hardest working guys I've ever seen in any paddock. So he is obviously taking this seriously and will not let Josh Hurley by.
No, no question about it. I'm sure his breathless team are delighted they don't have to fix his virtual car, because they seem to be the hardest people in the paddock working in the real Trans Am series. Always there to help. Talking of hard working, here's Lawless Alan on his way. And it's interesting, John Claggett, the president of Trans Am, is able to bring together guys like Lawless Alan who are potentially heading towards NASCAR, and they tend to do a little bit of Trans Am, and that's how Lawless got involved. But he stuck around like so many of them, and that's exactly what happened to Ernie. Ernie came as a teenager, and he's been here ever since, and now he's a 6-time champion, if not the most successful Trans Am driver out there. And yeah, he's had some throws at maybe some NASCAR teams, but interestingly enough, he hasn't plumped for that yet. As we go back with JP Southern, the former Formula 3 and Formula 4 man, great to have him on board. And he did a race here at Daytona last year, in fact, got a good result. So he's raced here in reality. He also raced a couple of races before that, so we're delighted to have JP Southern on here. And like I said before, Devlin DeFrancesco, just a bit of a trivia, was the youngest 24-hour, Rolex 24-hour purveyor, getting a 6th place in his first run at the famous Daytona Speedway. So interesting stories up and down the pit lane. Really impressed with Lachlan DeFrancesco, but by Devlin's own admission, Lachlan's the sim expert.
You know, we've had some drama, Jonathan. We've got Edward Savagian, who's currently 7th in points, who was up there battling for 4th place, has dropped all the way down to 25th. We didn't see what happened, but look, as we look from Tyler Casera's rear bumper at the leaders here. So we've got Ernie Francis Jr. right behind him, followed closely by Josh Hurley as they go into what's NASCAR 2.
Yeah, and I think Hurley wants by Francis so he's got a few laps left. And I think as they head out of the banking, 31 degrees and back down to the flat. But yeah, Hurley, as you can see, winding himself up. He looks towards the outside of the bus stop. It's an outbraking maneuver, but Francis brakes very late. But Hurley's now winding himself up as they exit the bus stop and head towards turn 3. Onto the banking they go. Now, is Hurley close enough? I don't think so. Great overhead shots, shows the distance between them. And Hurley was tucked up right at the bus stop, but Francis got through the bus stop well. And as they head down the back straight, again, he's not close enough, but he has gained on him. Here we go. He goes to the outside now, Hurley. Hurley, the championship leader, looking for a way to get into 2nd place. They dive into turn 1. Francis has still got the better line, holds the line, and holds 2nd place. We've got the perfect view from Casera. Casera leading this race. Francis under massive pressure with 8 of the 11 gone. Here comes Hurley up the inside of the horseshoe. Just a little tap. Love tap to Francis. Francis will say, that wasn't a love tap. I'm going to come back at you, buddy. And Hurley dives into 2nd place. And now, has he got time, Ben? I wonder, to catch Casera, because that's the championship battle we've been waiting to happen.
I don't know. You know, there's 3 laps left. I think Josh Hurley has the talent to do it. One thing we'd like to point out, these 2 top guys, Casera and Hurley, are, I think, 2 of the 4 people on our field or on this grid that are on VR headsets. And we keep trying to figure out if that's an advantage or disadvantage. But obviously, these guys have got their VR headsets hooked up as Ernie Francis tries desperately to get back at Josh Hurley.
You know, I talked to Tyler Casera about what advantage the VR. I had a long chat with him over the week, and he said the biggest thing is, in sim racing, it's really hard to judge just how close you are. Especially when you're side-by-side racing. But with the VR, you can literally look to your right, look to your left, and see. You get a much better peripheral view of the car you're chasing or overtaking. And he said, certainly on the banking, that could be an advantage. And so perhaps that's why we're seeing them up front. But I think they're putting in the hours as well. Right now, the gap is half a second, and we're about to finish lap 8.
Yeah, I was watching
back
Ernie.
up to 4.
Sorry, I was watching Ernie Francis get right behind Hurley, and I think and Ernie's smart enough to know if they work together, they're going to be able to catch up to Casera. So they're going to try to stay close together on the banking and draft to get that little bit of an edge so that they can both push up on Tyler Casera. So I expect them to see right up there with Casera with 2 laps left.
Oh, look at this. Side-by-side stuff again. Onto the banking they go and across the line. And Lachlan DeFrancesco into turn 1. In the number 23. Great battle this with the 81. And there's nothing between them as they head through the S's. And Thomas Merrill from Salinas, California, can't quite get the better of Lachlan DeFrancesco of Canada. And as we head on to lap 9, plenty of battles, let me remind you. Cassera and Hurley, half a second apart. Francis Jr. still third and looking for one more challenge. Racino fourth, Miller fifth, but still fast. Archer's there. And we're watching this battle for 7th place between DeFrancesco and Merrill. Eben still in 9th position, and then Cameron Lawrence 10th. Bo Borders makes an appearance in 11th place now. Time running out though, and remember, reverse top 10 for the second race. And don't go away, don't make a cup of tea. There's no time. We're literally going to go back-to-back racing. There's about a minute break for them to catch their breath, and then we do it all again with that reverse top 10. And right now, that's putting Lawrence in a good position. He would start pole as we look at Archer, currently in 6th place, chasing down Miller. Miller trying to defend, but Archer goes to the outside now. Great shots.
Well, that's our top 3. That's Ernie Francis trying to pass Josh Hurley.
Oh, they come off the banking, and that was a wry effort from Francis as they dive into turn 1. Wow. So then, penultimate lap. Francis isn't done with this one, and they both caught Cassera. Cassera in the number 4. As we go on board with Ernie Francis Jr. through the horseshoe, back on the power, up through the gearbox, 3rd gear, 4th gear for a moment. Into the left-hander, staying in 4th gear. Up to 5th now. Hard on the brakes, and Ernie goes round the outside. Goes for the switchback, 2nd gear through here. Fantastic onboard shots here at Daytona. Resplendent. And time running out, though, for Ernie Francis Jr. Oh, and a little moment there as they headed back out on towards the banking. And I think Hurley made just a tiny mistake there, and Will Francis managed to pounce. Cassera is holding on to the lead. Francis wants by. Looking for the draft now. And Ben, where else can he go for it, do you think?
I think he's too far away here at the bus stop, but knowing Ernie, he likes to make his big passes on the last lap. So watch for him. He's going out here. Right now, it looks like he's just trying to make Josh Hurley drive in his mirrors. He's going to try to get the draft as they come up to the white flag. And I think we can watch him try to make a pass. I think he's too far back at turn 1, but watch for him to make a pass maybe at the International Horseshoe, turn 5, or the bus stop.
Gotcha. Trans Am by Pirelli Esports Championship, round 3 of the series. It's been a doozy so far. We had wins at Laguna Seca, Tyler Cassera, Josh Hurley leading the way, and they're doing it here again at Daytona, but we're on the last lap now. Cassera does a 1:45. The gap is 0.7 to Hurley, and Francis is all over him. Oh, touching at the bus stop. Trouble there, and that's fine. You'll get fined for doing that. Hurley, though, still looking for a way past Cassera. Francis not close enough. Through the horseshoe for the last time. Cassera holding on. He's been practicing hard, Tyler Cassera. Takes this very seriously indeed. He wants to win this championship. He's not a big name in Trans Am racing. And Josh Hurley's been around and a little bit better known, but Hurley has been the competition for Cassera. But this would be a really, really good win, Ben, if he can hold him off, because he hasn't put a foot wrong yet.
No, he is consistent every week. I don't know how much time he's putting into the sim, but he races with us in TA2 and always does really well in TA2, but I've been very impressed with his sim abilities. As we follow along with Josh Hurley, can he get right up there? He's really got to get right up there. He's got to be a lot closer than that to get him on the draft to try to head him off at the bus stop. I don't know if he can do it, Jonathan.
Here we go. He's got one more chance. Here comes Hurley. Down the back straight. They come, and there's nothing between them. They're side by side. Francis will pick up the pieces if it all goes wrong. Through the bus stop they go. And Cassera holding on for dear life, but here comes Hurley. He's got to run on him, surely. Then head to the banking at turn 3 for the last time. 2 corners to go, and Hurley now looking for the slingshot. Has he got the speed? It looks as though he has. He'll come alongside. He'll go to the outside. He'll drop back down. He goes to the inside, under the yellow stripe. It's a neck-and-neck drag race to the finish. Here we go, folks. They're side by side here in Daytona. Oh, who got it? Oh, that was like a NASCAR Daytona 500 finish. What a result. And I think Tyler Cassera has just held on to the win from Josh Hurley, but what a doozy. Francis takes third, Rossino fourth, and Mark Miller, the champion, has returned with a top 5. And Edward Savagin, the man we're watching now, oh, Ben, doesn't get any better than that.
No, and I cannot wait to see the time difference between Cassera and Hurley, because it might have been a coat of paint between those guys. What a great finish. That was so much fun to watch. I'm over here sweating watching these shots. I've never seen a closer finish at Daytona with Trans Am.
That is absolutely superb. We wanted good racing. We had a driver's briefing this morning, and we were saying, look, keep the etiquette, keep the good racing, keep being fair with each other, put on a good show, and that's exactly what they did. There's Abate. Good to have Michelle Abate in this race as well. She had some issues at the start of the season, but we got her in, and now she is very much a part of this one, finishing 26th in the end in that one. She'll be disappointed with that. And just a look down, Lagacy Jr. in 21st, an improvement. Who else worth mentioning? Obviously, we're looking at, I think, Tony Kanaan may well have retired from the race. Don't see him on the leaderboard there. But either so, that was a fantastic race. And that sets us off nicely at Daytona. Confirmation then of the results. It's going to be so tight between them. Cassera, I think, gets it by literally a nose. And what a finish. Hurley lined him up brilliantly. It was just what we wanted. And when he finally went for it, he does. Look at that. 0.039 between Cassera and Hurley. It just doesn't get any closer than that. Ernie Francis Jr. rounds out the podium. Nick Rossino, another top 5. He's been the most consistent driver out there by my mind. And Miller pops in, the champion, with a 5th place in his first run at the game. Really impressive. Archer 6th, Merrill 7th, Lachlan DeFrancesco in 8th position ahead of Cameron Lawrence in 9th, and Kent Vaccaro in 10th position. So let's take a short break. We'll be right back with more action from Daytona after this. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. Beautiful day here in southern Florida, and looking forward to our second race. But the first one was brilliantly won, literally flag to flag, by Tyler Cassera of Manheim, Pennsylvania, sponsored by Howe Racing and Carbatech Brakes, and was 4th in our preseason race.
Race is going.
And here we are. We're up and running. And like I said, reverse top 10. This gives somebody else a chance, Ben, to maybe make a name for himself. And right now, we're looking at the number 26, Kent Vaccaro, who finished 10th and now leads this huge pack, nudging and bustling for position on the first lap. But anyway, getting away well again. A good clean start, but it's Vaccaro. Oh, Vaccaro gets in trouble. He gets pushed by 2 cars by the looks of things. And I think that's the 3-dimensional car of Cameron Lawrence pushing his way in. Oh, this is a bit of bumping and bruising going on. And everybody jostling for position. Thomas Merrill in the mix in the all-blue 81. He wants to have a go. And somebody gets turned around. Was that Cameron Lawrence? No, it's Kent Vaccaro, I think. But either way, it is out of it. Lawrence gets the lead. Lawrence leads.
Yeah, in true Cameron Lawrence form, he did this at Road Atlanta too. He started kind of up in the second race and then just took off. As we watch Cameron Lawrence come up the banking, followed, the other one I'd look out for is Nick Rossino, like you said, super consistent, and Thomas Merrill.
Yeah, definitely. Merrill currently in 5th place. Hurley gets a 6th place. That's a good start from Hurley because he'll have been further back down than that. Casera 7th. So Hurley and Casera can see each other on track because they're 6th and 7th, and they'll try to glide their way through. There's Casera, and you can see he's got the target. That is the number 3, Hurley. Somebody just taking to the banking. Was that Archer? As we go back on board with Casera, and he's got Hurley ahead of him. 5th gear, and onto the banking he goes.
How in the world, how did Ernie Francis Jr. get up to 3rd place this quickly from starting back? Because remember, this was a flipped grid.
Well, I think when they all went through the horseshoe, I think because of the bumping and bruising, effectively it slowed the whole field down. And that might be why Francis has managed to sneak through. But what that fantastic start. Oh, Tyler Casera in trouble. That's the first mistake we've seen from our championship contender. And Casera in real trouble there. His car was sideways. And we'll have to see how he pops out.
Wow.
Montoya, so Sebastian Montoya still with a lot of work to do, but it's still Cameron Lawrence and Miller. Miller now into 2nd place. Go ahead, Ben.
We have a 2-time TA2 champion leading right now in Cameron Lawrence. Last year's TA2 champion is leading last year's TA champion, Ernie Francis Jr. And then we've got Thomas Merrill in 4th place. This is shaping out to be a great Trans Am race at Daytona, Jonathan.
Yeah, no question about it. And of course, because Cameron Lawrence didn't take part last year, he and Mark Miller have not raced against each other. And that was one of the things I talked to Mark pre-season, and he said one of the things he's really looking forward to is racing against Lagasse, is racing against Francis Jr., because he's never actually done it. And I'm sure that's the case with Lawrence as well. I'm sure they've raced before, but certainly not last year when Mark Miller won the championship. So he's really enjoying a chance to, have a good old ding-dong with some of the guys he doesn't usually get to race against. But boy, this is really tight racing. The top 4 you could throw a blanket over. This is really good stuff. 0.4 between Lawrence and Miller, but you can see the gap for yourself as here comes Ernie Francis Jr. going side by side with Miller. And they are both on the banking, not giving an inch. Meanwhile, Hurley's just behind and ready to pounce. Oh, they're still side by side. 3-way battle. He's on the apron. What's he doing down there? I love it. Thomas
Merrill on the apron passes 2 cars to take, looks like 2nd place behind Lawrence. And that's Mark Miller in the Procurate Network.
By Miller. How did he save that? He literally went sideways. That is real skill. And Miller lives to fight another day after that incident. But look at this. Look at Hurley now with Miller side by side. Hurley going to the outside over the white line. Still side by side. Little bit of a love tap. Still Hurley. He's got the better line for the next corner and takes it just ahead of Miller. Violently fast and furious this race already. And we're only 3 laps in. What a cracker. And Miller holding on. But Hurley's not letting him go anywhere. And Racino's just behind in the all purple and black. Then JP Southern, Archer, Evans there. Vaccaro top 10, having started pole. And then was effectively beaten up at the horseshoe and drops down to 10th ahead of Borders. Lachlan, DeFrancesco, who had a good race 1 as we go on board on the banking with Hurley. 5th gear, flat out, 150, 162, 3, 4, 5, gets the draft. And you saw how the speed increased there just as he got the slipstream, and he can't quite pull it off. But that was a classic example, Ben, of how to use the drafting here at Daytona.
Oh, yeah, it was great to see. And he was trying to get Miller to commit to if he's going to take the outside or the inside, because you definitely want to go into the bus stop on the left. But if the person's close enough, then he has the inside on the next turn, just immediately following in the bus stop.
And here comes Racino now around the outside. Gets the slingshot down onto the flat part again. Hurley. Racino, Southern in the middle, in the white and black. You can see Hurley's Southern's car with the 61 on the roof. It's nicely done. Into turn 1 they go. Miller leading Hurley and Southern just behind. And then behind Southern is Racino. So Racino was the man that lost out there. And he now comes alongside Southern as they head towards the horseshoe again. It goes round the outside. Southern's got the inside. The better line, of course. But can he get some speed and drive out of here? Very high and wide by Miller. But this is excellent racing. It really is. But Lawrence and Merrill are starting to pull away as Francis goes up to 2nd place, Ben.
Oh, Ernie Francis and Cameron Lawrence, this is going to be quite a battle because the two of our biggest drivers in Trans Am, two champions racing against each other. And we don't get to see this because Ernie races in TA and Cameron Lawrence is in TA2. So we never get to see these guys battle. And so two of our biggest talents up there battling for first.
And I'm just delighted to see our champion, Mark Miller, getting amongst it in the sim. He's been chomping at the bit to get involved, but he's been busy. He's actually been working quite a lot because he does a lot of sim education, and effectively, obviously, everybody's sat at home, so he's in demand at the moment when he does his teaching. But I tell you what, he's giving them a lesson out there right now. He goes high and wide and into turn one. But a mistake from Miller. He just got on the grass, and now he's still on the grass. He's on the grass more than Bob Marley. Look at that. And he gets spun round. Oh! Miller is taken out, but I'm afraid I can't see anybody doing anything about that because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He went to the grass, and when he came back on, he got clipped, and I don't think I would blame anyone for that, Ben.
No, actually, that was just Miller trying to make another miraculous save that he just couldn't hold on to. But look at this, Thomas Merrill trying to pass trying to pass Ernie Francis Jr. going into turn one.
Yeah, very close indeed. This is a really good race between these two. France holding on. Now Racino gets ahead. Southern comes around the outside at the horseshoe. And now Eben's joined the battle. Eben up to 7th. There he is. Cliff Eben. His grandfather, of course, a famous Trans Am driver. And he's another one of the youngsters looking to maybe get into Trans Am at some point.
Yeah, we're calling them the Trans Am Futures or Trans Am Royalty because his grandfather, Cliff Eben, is super fast in the TA class. And oh, look at that. He pushes him out, Jonathan.
Oh, yeah, big moment there. But we go back with Lawrence, who's losing out now on that lead. The gap is down to 0.4, and we've got a cracking race about to emerge here at the halfway point, high on the banking at Daytona here in the bright sunshine. A circuit that was built back in the late 50s, and it's been the home of the Daytona 500 and, of course, the Rolex 24 Hours for many a year. And it's got a capacity of over 100,000 in the stands. And I've done the Rolex 24, and it's a joy to be at. Great atmosphere. And so many of these drivers have taken part in that. And so they know this track pretty well. Back with Archer. Archer
so we saw
a move, and he does get past Ben Lower. Go ahead.
We saw Cassera fall way back there at his incident at turn one, but look at this. He's moved his way back into the top 8, and I expect Tyler Cassera to be given a run for everybody's money at the top here at the end of this race.
Well, the one thing I've learned about Cassera, he's dogged, that's for sure. We saw that at Road Atlanta. You can't shake him if he's in the mood. And like you say, he's back in the top 8 now, and he's only, less than a second off Vaccaro. So, yeah, watch out for him to make a run. There's Tony Kanaan in the number 14, all blue. We're going to get, he's actually sponsored, Tony, by Big Machine Vodka. So he's another one of the Borchetta team, if you will, or at least part of that setup. But we'll get his livery sorted out for next time out. But delighted to have the likes of Tony Kanaan, real royalty in American racing, and says he's only been doing sim racing for some 5 weeks. He did the Indy Series, and of course that finished last weekend, the E-Series for Indy, and now Tony's joined us to keep, he's bought all the equipment, he may as well use it, why not? Now, back to the leaders. Here we go, Lawrence and Francis, nothing between them, and Francis, having learned in the first race when to go, and I would have thought that he's going to have to strategize here where he wants to make his move. And as I say that, he looks for an inside move at the bus stop. Classic overtake at Daytona. Brilliant stuff by Ernie Francis Jr. to take the lead. And Ben, it doesn't get more textbook than that.
No, and like I keep saying, I can't say enough about Ernie Francis Jr. He is just the smartest driver I've ever seen in my life. He's always thinking about the championship. He is the driver you would want on your team, and there he takes a textbook move over Cameron Lawrence into the bus stop.
Yeah, I mean, that was not just a textbook move. It was for the lead. It was absolutely decisive, and if he can build on it now, there's a real chance he's got to get his first win in this E-Championship. That said, Lawrence has got no intention of letting that happen, and look at him go. Nothing between them at the moment. Francis Jr., if he does win this race, we'll know he's been in a battle, that's for sure. But he's got the lead for now, 7 of the 11 gone. Hurley still there in third, so it's the usual suspects. Merrill dropping down to 4th position. Racino 5th. Eben is up to 6th place now, and Casera stays 8th. It's important where Casera finishes. He'll want to keep that 7-point gap to being at least under 10 if he can. It's Michelle Abate from Las Vegas in that distinct car. Great character. Oh, and she gets a nudge. And she's out there fighting. She's the and she gets hit. So we've got some shenanigans. There's Abate. She's managed to avoid it. But a few shenanigans going on out there, and the officials will have seen that. But now Lawrence losing out. And Ben Francis, if anything, has done a brilliant job in that last lap. He's taken the gap to just over half a second.
Yeah, there's nothing Ernie likes more than to just get and pull a big lead on everybody and then just kind of save his brakes and tires. But we do have some drama in 16th and 15th. Tony Kanaan is coming up on his team owner, Big Machine Vodka, Scott Borchetta. So it'll be neat to see if Kanaan passes him or kind of plays a little bit easier with his team owner.
Well, I was about to say, if he's doing the sponsorship, Tony's got to play nice. But then again, Tony's worked for people like AJ Foyt, so he knows how to play the boss.
Yeah.
So, more battles going on. Casera looking for another place here. Casera doing a really good job. He's got ahead of Kent Vaccaro as they cross the line again. Casera up to 7th place now. And he's got some 4 laps to make the move. There's Kanaan on his own at the moment. And it looks like he hasn't cleared Borchetta yet.
Yeah, he fell back a little bit as we were talking.
Yeah, he fell back a bit. Must have made a mistake because he's dropped back a little bit, it's Tony Kanaan. But we're back with TK, who has raced pretty much everything in his distinguished career and was going to make 2020 his swan song IndyCar year. And I wonder what he'll think now with this coronavirus about his career, because Tony's such a history that he'll want to go out on a high, and I think he'll want to keep racing. And I'm hoping that he'll come to Trans Am if this experience suits him, because we'd love to have him on board. And I don't know, I'd love to see him and Rafa Matos go head-to-head, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah. Two Brazilians as he follow along. And look at his hands. In that in-car view, you could really see how smooth his hands were and his vision. I'd love to see Tony Kanaan race with us in the Trans Am Series.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So, Michelle Abate at the back of this group. She goes high and wide, almost hitting the bars, but she's recovered. I love her paint scheme with the American flag on the roof. Perfectly done. And in fact, no word of a lie, you may think that that's just a great sim paint job. Actually, that's what her car looks like in real life.
Yeah, Michelle is always great with us on the West Coast, and she is one of those people that loves talking to future fans. And I always, whenever we have a race on the West Coast and she's there, I always introduce the fans to her because she's so great with fan engagement. You need to make sure you're following her on all of her social media channels.
Yeah, sure. Francis Jr. now in the lead ahead of Lawrence. The gap, 0.9. 9 laps gone. Francis finally pulled it off. And it's Lawrence in 2nd place, Hurley 3rd, the championship leader. Ernie Francis Jr. Fastest Ranches, Florida, the 26 from One South Florida. His new sponsor for this year, the Wealth Advisors. Well, if they keep following Ernie Francis Jr., they are in a good spot because Ernie is earning the big checks right now. And Lawless Allen in his own battle in the number 25. There he is on the inside in the purple and black. And good to have Lawless Allen. He's missed out a couple of rounds at the beginning. And I think he just, I think he was literally double racing everywhere and kept missing the cutoff to get the times in. But Lawless Allen back in action. And of course, he's one of our regulars. The man from California, from Van Nuys. Auto Parkit, Siemens and Garage 24. He's sponsored by. And back with Hurley and Lawrence on the banking, and Hurley's got the advantage over Lawrence, and Hurley goes to 2nd place on lap 9, but we're coming down to the bus stop, and Lawrence brakes as late as he dare, but Hurley holds on, bouncing over the curbs, and just holds on to 2nd place. But as these two fight, it's playing into Francis's hands. He's gone 2.5 seconds ahead now of this battle for 2nd place, which heads onto the banking again at turn 3 and heads towards the final turn 4. Cross the line they come, and they're side by side. Here they are. Hurley on the inside and low. Cameron Lawrence high. and trying to get the slingshot into turn 1. But Hurley holds him off. But time running out. This is the penultimate lap, Ben. Who do you think's going to do it?
Oh, I think Ernie's got it. But I think Cameron Lawrence right now, if he can stay with Hurley, has the advantage because he can kind of draft around Hurley here at Daytona. And then I'd also watch out for Thomas Merrill and Nick Racino back there because they'll take advantage of anything that happens up front of them.
Well, I felt that this round 3, the 2 races here, would be a breakout moment for our E Championship. We've got 8 rounds in all, but we're now starting to see a real pattern with Hurley, Lawrence, and Francis, definitely the protagonists here in our E Series, but there are others who've shown a really quick turn, and I think we're going to have more battles with more drivers. We've got lots of people queuing up to be part of the championship. First time we've seen Legacy Jr., who will improve. He doesn't have the big setup. We were laughing pre-season about the fact he sent us a picture of his daughter's deck chair that he was sitting on, and Legacy's like a tall fella, so to sit on a child's chair to be able to do sim racing is pretty impressive. Looking back from Merrill now. Merrill currently in 4th. Racino still there with him. One more lap to go, and a mistake there by Lawrence. Lawrence loses out, goes onto the grass for a moment, and that could put paid to Lawrence attacking Hurley in the closing stages. Francis now still has a 2.7 second lead, and now Merrill's got to be careful because Casera and Vaccaro are coming. Here is Tyler Casera just behind this one. We're looking at Merrill in his battle with the 33 of Nick Racino, and Merrill getting alongside as they dive into turn 1 again. Final lap this then. Everybody battling for position. 30 points for the winner. 3 points for pole position. So we're going to have a very decisive weekend here as we go back with Merrill at the horseshoe. Trying desperately now on the final lap. Gets good drive out. Through the gearbox he'll go. And he'll have to save himself, I would have said, for the banking and then maybe make a lunge at the bus stop. That's your best bet. Meanwhile, Francis is 2.3 seconds and headed to what will be his first E victory at home in Florida, Ben.
Oh, yeah, and you know that he's just loving that. This is what Ernie Francis Jr. does. He just makes good decisions. He starts to get out a big lead, and then he's able to kind of play strategy and save his tires and save his brakes, and he becomes almost impossible to catch at that point. But one I think we need to mention is Tyler Casera has really worked his way up. He's right now, going into this race, was the leader in our points. No, he was second place in our points, 7 points behind Hurley, and he's made his way back into 6th. So he really did a big save here because at turn 1 there in the first lap, so it looks like he was going to lose this race.
On board for a moment there with Francis as he heads to the banking for the last time. 2 corners to go for Ernie Francis Jr. Here comes the Floridian. The South Florida sponsored Ernie Francis Jr. is going to win at home as he comes towards the final turn here at Daytona. It's been a splendid run, and he takes the checkered flag, and Ernie Francis Jr. takes his first E-win. Hurley will take 2nd place. Lawrence will take 3rd. This battle
maybe not.
Racino and Casera. Look at this! Oh, just before the line. And that was a fantastic finish. Would you believe that was for 12th place? And Borders, I think, got it. Wow. That had everything, Ben. There comes Tony Kanaan to the line, and it's Borchetta side by side. I think Tony played that one nicely. Comes across the line with his team boss. Storybook.
But that finish we were watching, I think that was I thought that was Lawrence and Hurley. Am I wrong?
No, I think that was Borders.
I was wrong.
That was Borders for 12th place when they touched there. But nice. In the end, it all fleshed out this way. Ernie Francis Jr. takes the win over Hurley, our championship leader. Lawrence held on to get the podium in 3rd. Racino held on, and Casera made it all the way up to 5th place. That's a valiant effort, having gone off track while in the lead group. Ridequist 6th, Vaccaro 7th, Eben 8th. Southern gets another top 10, and Thomas Merrill, man who won this race here at Daytona in 2019, finishes 10th position. Real shame for Miller. He was up there, but I think got into problems. Well done to Tony Kanaan, scoring points, 16th position ahead of Archer and Savagian. And Kanaan coming across the line side by side with Scott Borchetta. And wow, I was exhausted watching that. Fantastic racing. We knew Daytona was going to be good, but I didn't think we'd have such great racing. But just to confirm, really, really impressive stuff by Ernie Francis Jr. to take victory. And finally, our 6-time champion is back to winning ways. Confirmation then of the result: Ernie Francis Jr., Hurley second, then Lawrence, Racino takes fourth, Casero fifth, Rydquist sixth, Vaccaro seventh, Eben, Southern, Merrill. Anybody else you want to point to, Ben?
No, I just want to say thank you to Tony Kanaan and for the DeFrancescos for joining us. What a great time. Mark Miller, I think you got some bad luck there in that last race, but look at our top 10. Those, I think we would have predicted some of these drivers to finish on our top 10.
Yeah, I can't echo that more. Welcome to our guests this weekend. We hope you stick around and race with us again. This is the E-Championship by Trans Am, and I think it's been a cracking couple of races, no question about it. And once again, Hurley scores big, so does Casera, and so does Francis Jr. And that championship now is getting tight at the top, and there's room for plenty more. Cameron Lawrence started the day in 4th position in the championship, and he'll now be vying for a top 3 for the next weekend. So that's how it panned out at Daytona. Just want to say thanks to all the organizers, to UMG and to Talk Motorsports. Thanks to Amy Greenaway for getting the Spotter's Guide up, and to Greenlight Television. And we'll be back next time out. My thanks to Ben Sissel. I'm Jonathan Green. Join us for the Trans Am presented by Pirelli E-Championship next time out.